Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to the weekly movie show. The boys Connor and Benny.
Hi there.
It's one new thing. I'm bringing it. I'm
Are you
bringing
just
it.
testing out new intros every
That's
time,
it.
see how
We've
it
got
goes?
to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Mammoth week, this guy's mammoth, prehistoric level shit right here. We have a Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. It's Chapter 2 trailer. And of course, we got to talk Dark Phoenix as well. Sad face. We've got 27 Avatar movies, 84 Star Wars movies. It's going to be crazy. I'm pumped. As I'm always pumped. I'm always ready for this.
I mean, you're the definitely the optimist of the group when it comes to the weekly show.
I try. But before we catch up on all the news, don't forget, you can check the annotations, guys. If you want to skip to any stories, head down there. We're taking it up to the next level.
You spoke and we listened. You want to cut out Connor's parts. We don't want to. We don't want to do that.
specifically
He's
have-
our friend, so we don't want to do that to him. So we leave him in, but you can skip around all you like.
Listen, before we get into the news, let's catch
Cynical
up.
monologue is here, and
Order in the court. All right. Let's catch up on the weekly watchings. That's a name.
that's
a name
weekly
for a
watchings.
segment.
I like that. All right, so this week, I made a narrow miss. Like I feel like I've kind of gotten away with robbery.
I'm looking forward to this.
We sat down, me and my girlfriend were trying to think of what to watch, and we made the odd venture onto Stan. And there was James Bond is on Stan. JB. And, you know, I'm always happy to revisit either Casino Royale or Skyfall. And my girlfriend went, "Oh, I haven't seen Spectre." I go, "That's not necessary. it's
worry
fine.
about
Do you remember Skyfall?" "Oh, I don't really remember Skyfall." "Okay, let's watch that then. Let's watch that." So I got away with that. I, watched
Nice.
Skyfall.
That's where the expertise gets you.
Exactly, right? And look, Skyfall is a movie that I really love rewatching, if nothing else but for the cinematography and the coloring. I think it's a really beautiful film.
Roger Deakins, best in the biz.
That it is. He is. Sorry, it is.
He's no man.
And then those terrible words that I heard after the film, which were, "I'd actually really like to see Spectre now." So that might be on my watch list next week.
She's got to learn because you come out of that movie, Skyfall, and of course you want to watch another one because you're like, wait, this creative team came back and did another one after this.
What happens next?
Fuck yeah. But that you got to find out yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam Mendes did both, didn't he?
Yeah.
I always forget that.
Oh, man.
And there's no way to convince someone that the next one's going to be bad, because like how do you say that, like, the people that made, like you said, the people made this,
How do you fuck that up?
somehow royally screwed the pooch. So check back with me next week. God
Oh,
rest
so you
my
didn't watch
soul.
it yet?
No, that is
Okay.
the thing. Like, I got away with it. I'm in the clear for the moment.
Stay
Yeah,
of execution.
I mean, it's funny to, like, I remember Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther, once saying, "I don't follow directors, I follow films." So it's funny, like, that sentiment, because I'm a person who follows directors. Guillermo del Toro, Chris Nolan, Quentin Tarantino. When that name's slapped on a movie poster, I'm super excited. And it's interesting to see those circumstances like Spectre. It'll be interesting to see your rewatch, but that same director should be the same kind of ballpark in quality, but it's just completely...
Well, it makes you think about
Off.
what changes. Is it that, someone burns out? Is it that,
Is it that Daniel Craig wanted to slit his wrist?
Yeah. I mean, but how much creative control does Daniel Craig have? Like, he certainly didn't come up with the idea that it's all been a, master plot from the beginning, assuming.
He just waltzes into the office on Monday morning.
Yeah,
All right, boys,
I've got
this is
an
how it is.
idea.
I've got it.
And I mean, it's the same kind of thing with, like, when a director comes out with a first time, like, excellent movie and people are like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing of all time." I get super hesitant because I'm like, all right, one movie is one thing, but consistency is another.
Yep.
Which is why guys like Tarantino deserve the cred that they have. That's why you do follow someone like Tarantino's, because they consistently provide good films.
Yep.
So, watch Skyfall. I also took your advice, George, and I watched The Man in the High Castle. And I made
Ooh.
it past episode 1.
Ah.
So I really pushed through it, and I ended up watching up until I think I'm just finishing up episode 7 of season 1 now.
Nice.
And this was something that didn't really grab my interest from the get-go. It wasn't. I could see how it would, but for some reason, I just wasn't as engaged. And it took me, I think, about 2 sittings to get through the first episode. But once the first episode finished and I kind of gave it a chance, it really hooked me. And I'm at that point now where I just really want to find out more about this world. I think, look, to be honest, I think that the acting is pretty darn good for a TV series. I think it's they've got some good talent.
Rufus
involved in this.
Sewell, who is one of the guys from Dark City, the movie that nobody knows about. He's the Nazi officer.
yeah.
He's so good in that.
Yes, he is, and he's one of those actors that I'm always really glad to see because I never feel like he
doesn't
phones
pop
anything
up
in.
much.
Like So him, the guy that plays the marshal is weird. That freaks me out. Just the character he's playing. If you were going to tell me that someone should be like a gritty martial kind of gunslinger, he would have probably been my last pick. I don't. Do you know his name? He's the guy from that kaiju movie that Del Toro did. One of the scientists.
Oh yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Not Charlie from It's Always Sunny.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
assume. Although he would be a
Not
weird
him.
pick as well.
They would both be weird picks. Yeah, he plays this like proper Western kind of like gunslinger bad guy, and it doesn't sit well with me.
You didn't like that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
A
just
bit too
something
hammy.
just a little bit off. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it is. It feels like someone playing a gunslinger, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I love the intrigue. I love the world building.
That's what got me about the show, man, is how well realized an alternate timeline or an alternate history could be. It just
Yeah.
felt like that could be a way it went.
Yeah, and I also think it's really interesting, I guess, commentary on getting if that happened, how would people react? Some people are just going like, this is our life now. Other people will resist. Like I think it's a really interesting show. I highly recommend that people at least check it out.
Yeah, just for those who don't know, it's about an alternate history where the Nazis won World War II.
Yeah. And so and America is split between the Germans and the Japanese. It's very cool.
How many seasons is it? Do you know?
3 at the moment, and I think it's an Amazon Prime original.
See, I burnt through the whole first season, and I'm still waiting on finishing up season 2 and 3.
Okay.
I might even rewatch season 1 again because I
I'll let you
enjoyed
know
it that
how I
much.
go.
So good, so good.
Might
I'm glad
just-
you're enjoying it, man.
Yeah.
It gets more science fiction-y as it goes on, I hear. It is by Philip K. Dick, who wrote the book that was based on for Blade Runner and whatnot.
Did you do Brave New World as well? Or
Nah, that was Aldous Huxley.
that?
Yeah. Now you've got me interested with his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just so good.
It feels like something adapted from a book. Someone has obviously put a lot of thought into constructing this world and the kind of the political atmosphere in a post World War II Nazi / Imperial Japanese world.
And the fusion of cultures, like a Western culture with the Japanese influence and the German influence, it's just really interesting and very well realized.
And it feels like that kind of 60s, 70s Americana style, but with Nazi flags flying everywhere. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Very cool. And yesterday I finished up I didn't finish up actually. I watched episode 5 of Game of Thrones.
GOT.
Bells.
Sorry?
The Bells.
The Bells. Is that what the episode's called? Oh, that makes sense. Ben, this is obviously also a throw to you because you would have watched it as well as the only 2 members of the podcast that actually watch Game of
I
Thrones.
know exactly what happened though, so
I'll bet you do.
so many
one of my-
spoilers on Facebook.
One of the most interesting things I found about the episode is not the episode itself, but the reaction to the episode. And I could have, even before going on the internet after watching it, I could have told you exactly what the response was going to be. There were going to be so many angry fans that were just like, oh, I can't believe that they took this road with this or that character type thing. And
That's not my insert name here.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, to be honest, I quite like the direction that they've taken. Particularly with, one of the key, I guess, things that people have gone to Game of Thrones for is, the idea that they don't pander to what anyone wants. if you've got a hero, that hero doesn't necessarily survive. In fact, they most often
Subverting
don't.
expectations.
Yeah, and I mean,
Hey.
the series is filled with heroes that don't succeed, with villains that don't get their just desserts. Like, I mean, there's so much of that in this, and I think that some people were expecting certain. I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. God knows how you'd avoid spoilers at this point, but I think that a lot of people wanted certain ends for the characters that they love or hated, and this didn't deliver on that. And I kind of think that there's a poetry to that, because the series has always been about, this isn't about justified endings. This is about what would happen in these worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things at play with this season and even last season, because they are wrapping up a lot of arcs that have been set up for years and years, decades, even with the books. And I think there is a huge aspect of that, which is people having speculated upon these characters and where they're going and not getting what they wanted or what they think should have happened. But I really think there is also an element that the show's not great. I don't think Benioff and Weiss have earned a lot of the conclusions they're coming to with these characters. So I could definitely see where people's anger or frustration is coming from. Like they're making some big choices now. This is the second last episode. We've only got like 80 minutes left of the series or something. And yeah, there are things happening that I feel like something of that magnitude would have taken, a whole couple of years or something early in the series. Like it's, as has been noted time and time again, it's not the show it used to be. And that's not a problem in and of itself. But yeah, I am very fortunate in that I just don't give that much of a shit. Like I've never been a huge Game of Thrones fan. I've only read the first book years ago.
Sorry, you read the book?
I read a book, yes.
Whoa.
I can read. It comes and goes, but
You must never admit this again.
I'm sorry,
It'll ruin your image.
Edit it out,
Pause the
Georgie, yeah.
podcast.
Edit it out.
We're going again.
I had a plane ride to get through. And
You didn't play Tetris? What the fuck, man?
this is
You betrayed me.
Years ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when they didn't have Tetris.
Yeah, exactly.
The 70s, man.
But before Tetris was the only thing I do with my life. So yeah, I watched this whole episode, and it is a fucking momentous episode of television. The production is insane. I can't believe they're doing this week after week for a whole season of television. But at the same time, I just kind of sat there not really feeling anything for the whole thing, either good or bad. I'm just like, all right, that's another episode, and that is not the reaction someone should have coming out of this. So I would like, we're going to try and do like a whole season recap at the end of this, because I don't want to make any huge sweeping judgments until the whole season's done. But yeah, as it's going, I'm like, yeah, okay. I think it's Game of Thrones, whatever.
And I think that this will really kind of, my enjoyment of these episodes will really be capped off by that last episode. How they conclude everything is how I will kind of judge. Like I want to be the same as you. I want to kind of reserve judgment as a whole until I've seen the whole thing. And but I think that the people that think this is the worst thing ever, probably that's a bit unjustified.
They probably are a
people
little
that
younger than us and didn't watch TV in the 90s.
Yeah.
And don't realize what they have.
But also, I mean, like, it's fair call to anyone that feels a little bit disappointed by it. But
I've heard sort of the sentiment that there was supposed to be maybe 2 or 3 more books. 2 or 3 more seasons would have adequately covered what was in the last couple books, and they've kind of accelerated through some character arcs in this and haven't
Maybe.
necessarily earned all the
payoffs, you mean?
or some of the actions or some choices some characters
The
make.
show's definitely moving at a pace that it never used to.
Yeah.
And that is coming at a huge sacrifice to exposition, logic, anything that you would kind of expect from a show the
But I also think
caliber it
the
used to be.
irony is that when this TV show did do that kind of setup, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so boring. Like, oh, I wish something would happen." And then Benioff and Weiss are like, "All right, let's do this shit." And everyone's like, "Oh, slow down."
Yeah, but just speaking for myself, I was never of that mind. I really like
Neither was I.
The more political stuff. Like, I don't think earlier in the series, I haven't rewatched it in years. I've never rewatched any of it, but just very quickly, like a character like Euron, who is not a character, he's a plot device, and he's a magical plot device, and I fucking love him because he is a sexy rock star pirate.
Yep.
And He makes no sense, and everything he does is just for the plot to keep moving. It is ridiculous, and he pisses everyone off so much. I'm like, fuck yeah, I love this guy. But I can understand how people who are really invested would be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, we will talk about this properly eventually.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, basically next week when the final episode comes out, we'll be able to sit down and we'll have a full spoiler discussion about everything that's happened in the last season and how we feel about it. And you know,
I won't be there. That's going to be great.
You have to sit in the corner.
You don't have
and
to
not
listen
say
to this
anything.
dickhead talk.
You're not allowed to get out of it. You still have to sit there.
Yeah, we got 3 chairs. We can't change
Please,
this.
I wanna
We
go to
just
the
won't allow you
toilet.
to speak.
Turn your microphone off.
All done?
Yeah, Ben, it's on to you.
Yes, I also had the pleasure, something that made me feel a lot more inside, was watching Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2 on the big screen in 35mm film. This was such an experience, probably my greatest cinematic experience this year. I haven't watched either of them in years. Watching them reminded me how much I loved, especially that first movie. I remember getting it on DVD before I was even allowed to have an R18 film, and just like watching it again and again and again. And loving the hell out of it. I was on like the verge of tears for so much of this double feature, just because of watching a movie this beautiful and like kinetic and propulsive. It was like overwhelming. Like it was not like an emotional reaction. It was just like, this is amazing. It was I texted you guys in the middle of the double because I was just like rocking in my chair, like, fuck, this is so good.
I was honestly surprised that you took the time to text.
It was really special. It reminded me of just how strong Tarantino is and can be. And if you haven't seen those movies, Kill Bill 1 and 2.
I've always struggled to get exactly why people love these. Like
Really?
there's particular scenes in the first one and sequences and whatnot that I absolutely adore. But it still hasn't quite clicked with me, especially Volume 2 hasn't clicked with me.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, like my mantra really is like, until I've seen a movie on the big screen, I haven't seen it properly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my reaction is always like tenfold to any movie. So like I'm sure if I watched these at home, I still would have been like, yeah, these are really good. But watching something on the big screen, fuck. It's just,
I still to this day regret not seeing Arrival in the cinema.
yeah, you
because
fucked up.
I remember watching that, and I had like, I firmly believe that as long as you have really good sound, then you're probably pretty set. So I watched it with really good sound, and all I could think of is this would be spectacular in a big cinema
Yeah,
with
man.
booming sound and like
The drone
the-
sounds for the score were insane.
yeah, I would have really loved to have seen that on the big screen. And I think that is a lesson to myself, which is that if Villeneuve ever puts out a film, take the time to go watch it in the cinema.
Dune, baby.
Yeah, you-
I will be there
2020.
day one.
No offense, Con, I love you, but you should have known that already.
I mean,
You've done this
when
yourself.
Arrival came out, I don't know that I was I don't think I was as cued into Villeneuve as I should have been. Again, a couple of movies doesn't make me follow a director.
The podcast has trained us up.
And just finally, a couple of interesting tidbits from this double as well. Watching how skilled Tarantino is as an action director when he wants to be was kind of mind-blowing. I'd forgotten how great that just the hand-to-hand combat was in that movie after
The kitchen scene?
the decades since of action, I think, being a little less impressive in a lot of ways in Western cinema. Just so many superhero movies where a lot of people throwing each other around, not so much fight choreography. And also, Kill Bill Volume 1 has not one but 2 Star Trek references, which is of note because Tarantino has written a Star Trek film, which he might direct. So just a kind of little reminder that, yeah, this guy actually might
Really
really
does
fucking
like
dig Star Trek.
So, a bit of an aside, but Tarantino's movies are always interconnected in one way or another. Do we think that?
Tarantino-verse.
Yeah. Do we think that if he does this Trek film, Star Trek film,
Oh, that would be fun.
that he will make a connection?
Hopefully someone
They're
pulls.
definitely something, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone pulls out their space phone and it's that John Travolta meme where he's like,
I think that'd be weirdly meta. I don't think that there's a connection in that kind of way. I mean, like it would be the same universe, but also that
universes
would be
within
cool as well.
universe.
Yeah.
I think that's an absolute given. For anyone who doesn't know, about half of all media, film and TV, is actually technically set in the same universe. Have you guys heard of Saint Elsewhere?
Yes.
I've heard of it, but I don't know
This
what
old
it is.
TV show that ends with everything having happened in like a sick kid's snow globe or something. But if you track references from that show to other shows at the time, through other shows, through other movies, it's endless. It connects Simpsons to the X-Files to just
Wow.
hundreds of shows that are all technically, if you want to work at it, set in the same universe, and they're all set in this kid's snow globe.
Yeah.
Look up Saint Elsewhere if you do not know what I'm
Is
talking
it?
about.
But does this kind of jump into the paradox of, like, for example, Tony Stark referring to Chris Hemsworth or Thor as Lebowski, who was played by his arch nemesis in Iron Man 1, like that kind of.
This is all through actors playing their characters on other shows and stuff.
Okay.
Like specific characters being referenced in other things.
Weird.
It's really fascinating.
Weird.
Mm.
All done, Benny?
I'm all done.
I just got a quick one this week. I've been destroying some Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Super.
Hmm.
I watched the whole saga of the Beerus and his brother battling it out. You know that one?
No.
The tournament. What's it? The Universe 6 tournament. That's what it's
right.
called.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I rewatched the Broly movie that we went to see earlier this year,
Mhm.
which is just so good. That is just such an awesome movie. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. Enjoyed it more so the second time watching it than when we saw it in the cinema.
Mm.
And just on Dragon Ball Super, I'm really, really enjoying the inconsequentialness of this show. Like it sort of almost knows self-aware that it's tacked on to Dragon Ball Z. It's like Dragon Ball Z had this really dark, oppressive, end of the world vibe, and this one just feels like, yeah, we're just battling it out, and it's colorful and it's crazy, and
It doesn't really have that same intensity that Z had, even though it's literal universes pitted against each other.
and I kind of like that. I like that it's not trying to compete with that.
I've watched most of it. It was definitely background noise for me, but I did enjoy it.
Does Dragon Ball Z or that universe still have a large following?
Oh, it's going off, man.
It's huge.
Yeah?
Absolutely huge. What the
Broly's
movie was-
the highest grossing Dragon Ball Z movie, Dragon
yeah.
Ball movie.
That one was relatively recently,
Yeah,
wasn't
January, I think.
Hmm.
Was it because in January? January,
it? But what kind
February?
of what kind of
Somewhere around
numbers
there?
are they pulling in? Like when you say
7.
the highest, 7.
1
7,
maybe 8.
million.
No, in Japan, certainly, it's like absolute blockbuster.
Okay.
And yeah, the release of the cinematic release of the Broly movie this year was also huge worldwide. Not in terms of, like actual kind of blockbuster, but for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So it's still got legs. It's still going. It's
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's like 35 years or something since the series was initially created. It's still got stuff running.
Yeah,
Insane.
it's crazy, man. Like just the wealth of material and characters in this show. It's I just love it.
Mm.
I
and
can't
it's
tell
no
you.
longer following the same characters, or it is or-
Goku, Vegeta, a bunch of other motherfuckers that they've jammed in there.
That's insane.
No, it's great,
There you
man.
go.
I'm gonna try and get through this series to make it 2 TV series that I've finished in my life. All right. Well, we're gonna get
We
into the
are.
meaty stuff now.
Yep, on to the news. This is going to be a very Disney-heavy episode because Disney has announced its plans for further world domination. Mainly, its release dates for, so strap in, the next 8 Marvel movies, the next 3 Star Wars, 4 Avatars, 12 live-action Disney films, and 7 Pixar and Disney animations. Almost all of them are untitled, and almost all of these are set to release before the end of 2022. So
What year is it again?
it's-
2008.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, believe it or not, almost all of these are set to release before in like the next 3 years. It's 8 MCU movies, so 2 next year and 3
Every year
each
after
of the
that.
following years after that.
I mean, there was the question about whether they would slow down on the movie side. Because
With
they're
MCU.
Sorry, with MCU. There's the question about whether they'd slow down. Because they had just finished off Phase 4, maybe to give some time for the fan base to rest.
Give it a breather.
Yeah, apparently not. But also because we thought that they might focus in on the Disney Plus streaming side and kind of maybe move towards TV shows a little bit. But it does not look like they are slowing down at all.
Well, only 2 Marvel movies next year. So
Sorry, I take
What
it
am I
back.
gonna
I take it back.
do?
They're really pulling
Yeah.
back the.
But then
How exciting is it to know that there's 2 Marvel movies coming out next year, and I have no fucking idea what they are?
Well, I think we can reasonably assume that it is, I would say, Black Widow and Eternals,
Really?
and Shang-Chi would be the next one. So those 3, I would say, be the next 3.
I mean, that's cool.
Then we've also got Doctor Strange 2 and Black Panther 2.
Yep.
Are confirmed. Otherwise, it's kind of a bit up in the air.
Well, I mean, man, Doctor Strange 2 after Endgame and Infinity War, I'm so in for that.
Hell yes,
I
yeah.
really want to see some more on that character. Like Doctor Strange 1, I watched it before Infinity War and I was like, yeah, that was solid. But I think there's just so much to get in with that character.
Yeah, I wonder if the I think a lot of people got on to the Doctor Strange bandwagon post Infinity War,
Yeah.
and one of the great things about that was watching him interact with Tony Stark. And there are certain characters that really are highlighted in their opposition to other characters, and I want to see whether he's able to continue on that kind of momentum on his own. Because I think there's a lot of people that felt a little bit lackluster with him in his solo film, which, to be honest, I think I'm with you, George. I think that's a really solid film, but just in terms of reaction and the general populace.
It's middle of the pack MCU film.
I hope he just has a dartboard with Tony's face on it. He's like,
Yeah. I never liked that guy. In
But
fact,
his-
he didn't even have to die. There was at least 3 other ways he could have survived.
But his role in Infinity War was crucial. Like you could have gotten rid of certain characters, like
Not possible.
Drax gone. Fairly inconsequential.
You wouldn't have had
Doctor Strange.
who is Gamora and the
Well,
invisible
yeah,
scene.
I mean,
Come on, man.
pivotal scenes. But his and everyone was kind of like Doctor Strange. I never really heard Doctor Strange be talked that much about. So I think those films have really done a lot of work for his character to make him a little more high profile in the MCU.
well, his role in Endgame is even more crucial. Otherwise, everyone would have gotten wet.
Doctor Strange,
Those-
get to
those
that
spoilers.
tornado.
Can you imagine being so exhausted as a script writer and a story writer that you're just like, oh, by the way, like we've got this super high powered wizard. What are we going to do with him? Oh, I don't care anymore. Just let's give him like a dam or something
Yeah,
to deal with.
yeah.
Just fuck it, I don't care anymore. Just there's too much. Let's just.
And then what about the other 3? So we've got 5 there. What about the other 3 movies? Iron Man 8.
Iron Man 4, 5, and 6, I believe.
Yeah.
They're doing another trilogy.
Captain Marvel 2 will be in there, I'm assuming.
Potentially.
I'd be very surprised if they didn't have a Captain Marvel 2.
Maybe
as
Ant-Man 3?
Guardians 3
Yeah,
will be one of them.
4. That's
Or-
definitely in the mix, I hear.
I think Guardians will have Thor in it, so that will just be Thor 4 or
well,
Guardians.
TD apparently did pitch a Thor 4 to Marvel
Yeah.
just recently.
Okay.
So that
I wonder
could
if
even be
they'll
another
try and
thing.
combine that maybe.
That'd be interesting.
Because there is a As Guardians of the Galaxy, isn't there?
Comic, yeah.
Comic. So I
Yeah,
mean,
which involves none of the characters from the films
but I mean,
whatsoever.
that
But
that
it's
never really
it is
matters.
the MCU, yeah, and they like to take a name of a thing and put it
and
in.
just
for no
maybe
reason,
take some
yeah.
motifs or something and run with that, which I'm okay with.
So Marvel's here to stay. Good news. Just to jump around a bit here, we also got some also fantastic news. 12 live-action Disney films. It's not confirmed that these are all animated adaptations, but the first few are. So it seems like, yeah, okay, they probably are.
So we've got Mulan, Jungle Cruise, Cruella. Jungle Cruise has The Rock in it,
For
doesn't it?
fuck's
Yeah,
sake.
so that's an adaptation of a ride, which is even
Yeah.
more prestigious than an
Oh
animated
my
film, I guess.
God.
But to be fair, that is how we got Pirates
Haunted
of the Caribbean.
Mansion.
That's how we got 2.
Come on, let's
good
give them a
Pirates
little bit
movies.
of credit.
No, we got Pirates 1 through
Edit.
7. Some of which
One.
are good.
2 of them are good. 2 of them. Oh, yeah, 2 of them are good.
I've
1 and 2,
always-
I like.
I've always been this weird defender of all 3.
I like the first 3, yeah.
I just don't. That
4 and
third
5 can
one
get
was
fucked.
odd. Really odd.
Anyway,
I mean, compared to 4 and 5, 3 is a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, they've got Mulan, which is I'll be very interested to see that one. I don't know why. I think I have the same feeling about Mulan that I did about Aladdin.
which is why are they like adding white characters to the story, which they've done for both films.
Which were the white
very-
characters in? I'm just trying to think. In Aladdin.
There's like a European prince or something in it.
Oh, is it?
I think the reaction was strong enough to the Milan version that they may have gone in a different direction with that, but for both it was the case, which is like,
Okay.
come on guys, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
But Mulan's not one of those properties that I'm super attached to, like Aladdin. So if we get something that's, don't do what they're doing with Lion King. Do what they're doing with Aladdin. Put it in a melting pot. Give it a new interpretation. I think there's something really interesting.
But I think they could have gone a step further with the Aladdin thing. Like I think that if
Definitely.
you're going to do a live action thing, make it divorced enough from the original. Like I don't think that they should have taken a single musical theme from Aladdin and put it in a live action. I don't think it should have been musical at all. Because
I think Mulan actually is going in that direction.
which I
What I
think
understand.
that
Yeah.
would be really cool. And when I heard that Guy Ritchie was doing Aladdin, I thought, oh, we might get this kind of cool street rat version. I like Guy Ritchie's style, and what we got was just this kind of same songs, probably same storyline.
Disney shame.
Yeah, and that was it'll be remain to be seen. How it turns out, but it's not what I kind of expected out of a live action film. So I don't know. I'm weirdly optimistic for Mulan, despite
Same.
all the evidence to the contrary. But I think that could be. I think that's a cool setting. I think that there could be some really interesting things you do with that. We'll see. Jungle Cruise, I think, could either go the way of Haunted Mansion or Pirates, which is to say that they could either fuck it up or they could be really good. I suppose
The
those are
Rock.
the only two.
It'll either be Jumanji or Race to Witch Mountain.
Yeah. And
Those
it
are the
will
only two
not be in
options.
between. That's the thing.
It'll
Like,
actually be literally that film with a different title on it.
Just fuck that movie, man. Like, I can't.
Wait. Hold off on fucking that movie until you see
Honestly,
the next movie.
Yeah.
I get so angry. I shouldn't be this angry.
You
And-
shouldn't.
And we have the third one, which is Cruella.
The Emma Stone
That makes
starring
me angry as
Cruella
well.
DeVille origin story.
Find out how she became
So
the most badass.
I can honestly say I'm most.
Fuck, that was shit. That was shit. Roast me. That was
No,
dog
you're good,
shit.
You're good. I can honestly say I'm most excited about the 9 untitled ones here than the first 3 there.
Let's speculate.
And then 4 new Avatar movies, which we already knew about.
2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, can you imagine being so? I'd like to say confident, but it's probably closer to arrogant. Being so arrogant that you like greenlight 4, films after this. Will be like, this is so good that we're just gonna
That's
ride
James
the
Cameron.
gravy. Yeah, I mean, he does have the two highest grossing films of all time. But
He's gonna pull up his ass as well.
I bet he's aiming to have like the top 4 highest grossing films of all time.
do we think that there's a
Maybe.
chance in hell that Avatar is coming even close to the top 3?
Avatar 2?
Yeah.
Avatar 2 could potentially get a healthy sum in the door, but I really don't think 3, 4, 5 will. I think it'll slowly start petering off. Similar to what happened with Solo. We'll see that kind of thing. It's just overexposed. It's just too much.
Well, I think it might. I think they could be in as much trouble as like this Fantastic Beasts franchise, where they're like, "Yeah, we're making 5 movies." Then they do a couple. They're like, "We're thinking about where the franchise is headed.
Yeah.
We're readjusting our
Yeah,
expectations."
we didn't talk about that Fantastic Beasts
Good
story.
Let's continue not talking about it.
'Cause I
There's
fucking hate
also
that shit.
there's also some Star Wars news in this, which is a big
There
deal.
is. Just quickly with Avatar. Can we just talk about how much I hate that?
Yeah, a lot.
Listen,
I saw a discussion on Reddit just before we actually walked in today, which was, Avatar is still a good movie. Discussed, and I was like, wait, still? Was it ever like a really good movie? Like, I mean,
we
it
should
was,
rewatch it. I think because I haven't watched it since it came out.
I actually
should.
was one of those guys that actually quite liked it, and I don't hate it as much. I just think I think it's the arrogance of having 5
Yeah.
sequels. Prove your worth. Get a trilogy in first, and then let's talk 4, 5.
I think it's also, I guess, the success of the film that seems to have turned me off of it as well. Like, I definitely get what you mean, because I don't feel like it deserved the top spot.
It was very well executed. I think it was last week we talked
Yeah.
about this, the 3D, the this, the that. It was perfectly coordinated release. But as you said, Benny, can you name an Avatar character? It just doesn't have the brand equity that a Star Wars or an MCU has.
No. Yeah, the one thing that is positive, I think, is they are releasing a movie every 2 years. So that we're not getting bombarded with them. These are going through to 2027, which is exhausting in its own way. But,
Yeah.
at least we're not getting 3 of these a year like the MCU.
That hurts my brain. We've also got some Star Wars movies.
So
coming.
speaking of readjusting the schedule,
Yeah. What at one point, what were we getting? A Boba Fett movie, a Solo 2,
Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan.
2 trilogies. So
Culled.
we have one trilogy here announced, one every 2 years at Christmas time.
So 2022, 2024, 2026.
Yep. And as far as I'm aware, we're not sure if this is the Benioff and Weiss or the Rian Johnson trilogy.
So what I've heard, the rumor is that it's the Benioff.
Benioff and Weiss.
It's one person. It's like Marcus McFeely.
Benny Wise.
Benny.
I put them in. They
Ben
become
Wise.
one. So evidently, it's their script, and Rian Johnson has come on as a consultant. Whether or not that's true, hey, take it with a grain of salt. But that's what everyone's saying. And I honestly think with The Last Jedi reaction, Rian Johnson's script is in the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
They're not going. They're the shareholders. Kathleen Kennedy, everyone at Lucasfilm, it's going to be really tough to get him behind the camera again. I
think
feel.
you could very much say the same about the Game of Thrones season 8 reaction.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Disney have signed them on before this, and then there might be a little like, oh shit, everyone, like just based
Everyone
on the work,
sucks except JJ.
hates this. Yeah. JJ, you're doing another trilogy.
JJ.
But I mean,
Get ready.
to be honest, I don't think everyone hate. Like, I mean,
No, I'm saying
the
just,
hate
just
is
the word, the echo chamber,
louder
it
than-
sounds like fucking
Yeah.
unanimous hatred.
It
does,
reminds
yeah.
me a lot of The Last Jedi. It, like
I
so
saw someone,
much.
I saw someone comment that yesterday, which was, I think what was it, 2018, The Last Jedi, 2019, Game of Thrones season 8. I was like, fucking sort your shit out. Like, I mean, it's not that bad.
But it's the same thing. It's like, that's not my Luke Skywalker. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
my ex. You know, it's
Character.
yeah. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I hope that they go down the Knights of the Old Republic route. I know we've
Yeah.
said that at length, but distance itself from the Skywalker.
It needs to be divorced from what we've seen because so much is about, you'll still get the people that are angry that they aren't beholden to book 6 in this particular saga or whatever it is, because that's not my Knights of the Old Republic.
I'm still
But-
angry about C-3PO being made by Anakin Skywalker. I'm angry, man.
Never let that go.
I'm fucking angry.
I thought that was a genius way to tie the universe
Oh,
together.
really?
honestly, yeah.
Oh, fuck, I guess.
For me,
Oh, yeah.
that when I first watched it, because I was a kid, I didn't care. When I rewatched it later on in
Okay.
life, I was like, oh no, that's
That-
terrible.
That makes me fucking angry.
For people that complain about The Last Jedi, I mean, like, seriously.
Yeah.
You've
Rel-
lived through worse. What's
Relax.
the big deal? Like, we've made it through the prequels.
Imagine the reaction to The Last Jedi if there hadn't been or if the prequel trilogy
Yeah.
was great.
Oh my
Would have been World War III.
Oh, man.
If Star Wars fans hadn't really tasted that bitter disappointment before, maybe it would have made it better or worse. Maybe they'd have been more caring towards it. Maybe the fandom
Honestly,
has
can't
become-
say because so many of them people now like the prequel trilogy so much.
weird, isn't it?
It's so
Yeah,
bizarre.
I love it, man. What's really interesting about this, and I think is really fantastic, is they're taking a 3-year break. We've got a 3-year break from 2019 to 2022. That gets a thumbs up from me. I think they need to make people like they don't want to quench that Star Wars thirst, which is what they've done. They want to dry it up a little bit, get everyone hungry, and then boom, in comes the next film.
We've talked about this a lot. Marvel has positioned itself in a way that it can pump out 3 movies a year. Like the way that their universe is structured, that makes sense because you're adding to a collective when you do it like that. With the Star Wars, I guess, universe, it feels a lot more kind of shoved in. It wasn't originally designed to be like this. Star Wars films need to feel like events. They need to feel really special.
Yes.
And if you get too much, you're just going to be satiated on Star Wars. And particularly with Solo, no one was really begging for that movie. No one really felt like, oh, finally I've got a Solo film. So I think that this is a really good opportunity to just step back and then just wait for that trailer 3 years down the road.
Oh, that's going to be dope.
When you hear the Star Wars theme, or you kind of get that feeling like, oh, I'm gonna watch a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
'Cause I miss that. I really want that. Like I remember when the Force Awakens, that trailer came out. I was like, fuck.
You didn't get it for Rise of Skywalker?
This is. I mean, not as much as I got
Solo?
for the last or
That's Solo.
not as much as I did
Solo.
for Force Awakens. Just
Yeah.
I don't know, just that feeling of like
10 years since the one
I
before.
missed you. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was looking up some box office stuff today, and while Avengers Endgame is clearly well on its way to becoming the highest grosser of all time. It has a long way to go before taking over Force
Domestic.
Awakens as the highest domestic grosser, which
Yeah.
has another 200-300 million on it.
Almost broke a billy.
Yeah, which is insane. And looking at that, the kind of where the Star Wars movies are falling now, it's hard not to say they might have squandered some goodwill since that movie, whether that be that film or the subsequent films, or just all of them are a combination of just this absolute fucking the amount of Star Wars they've been throwing at us since then.
Yeah.
This break is it shows some restraint, and it's a really good idea.
I'm so happy.
Speaking of Endgame, I mean, they're currently at like 723 million domestically and about 2.5 billion. Like, that's nuts.
Nuts.
They're doing pretty well.
Nuts.
A couple other notes from Disney's announcement there. New Mutants has been given an official release date of April 3rd, 2020.
What the fuck?
So that's 2.5 years since we got the trailer.
What the fuck?
So the movie was announced 4 years ago.
I thought the podcast was going to be dead and buried before we get this movie. I mean, what the fuck,
Oh,
man?
it's still- well, maybe.
Shit. I've been so looking forward to this film, and it's just going to be terrible. It's
Yeah.
getting manhandled in the edit bay, and there's too many cooks. And
Can you imagine, like, the person that is responsible for this must be just sweating bullets? I mean, it would almost be more of a mercy to just kill this movie where it stands, because
Definitely.
now someone is responsible for it for the next God knows how long until it gets released.
There's
And
no-
let's not
there's no-
pretend that that's actually when it's going to get released.
There's no pressure on it, though. Like, I feel like whatever this movie is, everyone's going to be like, that was better than I expected, because it was delayed for 5 years.
But there's obviously enough pressure that this guy kept it afloat, or guy or woman or whoever is responsible for it. There's obviously something to it, whether they've sunk enough money into it that it just has to perform. Or
Well, that's the crazy thing is Disney didn't spend any money on this movie. So they could just not release it.
what's the reason? Do we have any confirmation behind why it got pushed again?
It went into reshoots to make it scarier was
Yeah.
the initial word, and
Yeah.
then the reshoots never happened. Maisie Williams is on record as she was interviewed. She's like, "Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on with that movie. I haven't gone back for reshoots."
Oh.
And she can't now. She's like 5 years old. She doesn't look anything like she does in that movie. But yeah, there's I don't think there's been any official word.
It's
I
like the
think-
continuity between scenes. She looks 5 years older. Shit.
Totally. I think at this point it just got caught up in the merger, and I don't know why Phoenix would be getting a release, but that wouldn't. But yeah,
This is so
bizarre.
disappointing from my end
love
because
that trailer.
I was so into that trailer.
Yeah,
But maybe that's the main problem. Maybe they made a trailer that doesn't reflect the film,
Quite
and people got
potentially.
really excited about it, and then Fox was like, "Fuck."
I think that's exactly what happened, man. I think you're right on the money there.
Oh.
On that money.
And speaking of X-Men, the Gambit film is nowhere to be seen. So that one's
No.
that one is gone. I know.
Don't fucking lie to me, bro.
I thought the seventh director would be the charm on that one, but
and how many people have been attached as stars?
I think it's been Channing Tatum
Channing
for
Tatum pretty much the whole time. Yeah,
who's the guy in? Who was that guy? And he was in Battleship.
Taylor Kitsch. Who
He was
played
in
him
there for a bit. Oh, that's right. He
Played
was
him in X-Men
X3.
Origins.
Yeah.
Wolverine.
Oh, X-Men 3. X-Men.
X-Men 4 Origin Wolverines Magneto.
oh my goodness, you should
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
that.
He didn't get the call up.
Oh well. So 4 people are sad about that, and none of them are in this room.
I kind of just wanted to see that movie. It's just like, it's one of those ones that's, we talked about it so much. It's been kicking around. It's like, when is this actually going to get made?
Who was
Wasn't-
Gore Verbinski was attached to that for
Yeah.
a minute, for a week there, which I was so into.
Yes, that would have been amazing.
Love that guy. Anyway,
Maybe they're just
speaking-
keeping this alive by saying that directors are attached, and then going to the director
It is.
being like, "Hey,
literally just some guy from the
PR or
distributors
something.
like knocking on the guy's door. It's like, do you want to talk about Gambit? They're like, no. It's like this where this guy's in talks.
yeah."
All right. Speaking of box office, more shocking news from this weekend. Avengers Endgame won the global box office again for the 3rd week running. No surprise there. But Pokemon Detective Pikachu did win the Friday. So I think that's kind of the first time that Avengers has been toppled
Huge.
since it was released. It was only by a few million, but
Was it 58 milli or something?
yeah, good opening. But there was, as I said, it didn't win the weekend. It had a bit of a drop off, which I think would be expected with Pokemon. It's going to be very front loaded, that one.
And one of the best video game openings of all time, I believe, if not the best.
The best, and also obviously very critically well received, which is pretty damn special.
Don't forget to go check out our review, guys. It's up now. I was sort of. I remember when this news came out on Friday or Saturday when it was. I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if Endgame is gassing out." But hey, then the whole weekend happened, and
And yeah,
the
it's at
money
2.5
came
billion,
in.
so it's fine.
The money came in. But we were saying last week, is it going to hit 3 billion? I don't necessarily know if it will, but I think
it's
it will overtake Avatar.
It's about just shy of 2.5 at the moment. I think it's got at least a couple hundred in domestic sales to go. I'd say that China is going to pump in another at least a couple hundred. I think it's very reasonable to think that this will get to 3. Like, I don't see why not. I mean, just bear in mind, we are only in the 3rd week of this movie being released. That's bizarre in and of itself, and it's still topping out every single day.
But the thing is, we have now an onslaught of films. We've got John Wick, we've got Aladdin, we've got Toy Story 4. They're just going to keep eating into Endgame's possible revenue. So I just wonder how much legs does it have, and will it keep just bringing in dough, or is it going to really start falling off?
A good indication might be, Ben asking, like, do the sessions are still selling out? Like, what's the vibe?
It's still with at work at the cinema. Pikachu had a couple of specific nights that it did very well. Endgame is still easily the MVP of the place, though.
Yeah. So I remember because were you there when Avatar was in?
Yeah, that was the first movie that
Really?
I ushered on. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
That was my first staff screening. I was like, I get free tickets?
I still remember that being crazy for weeks out. Like, we were still selling cinemas out.
Oh, and I remember how it went up. It started out and it just, like, I remember week 3 or week 4 being like, is every movie like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing that kind of business with it. Like, it's not giving us any trouble in terms of like trying to fit in enough people or anything. We're not selling anything out, but obviously globally it's still doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
And you guys, you're at 2 screenings, Connor, of Endgame?
2 screenings, yeah.
Benny 3?
3 in the first 17 hours it released.
Yeah, and I haven't gone back as well at 3, and I've kind of left it there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I will, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think I will either.
Yeah, I might not.
But we don't contribute to any box office numbers, so
No, never. We had to buy a ticket the other day. That was brutal.
What time is it?
It's trailer time.
Trailer time. All right, we've got quite a few good trailers, actually.
Big ones.
First and foremost, we mentioned this last week on the podcast. We knew that a Spider-Man trailer was going to drop pretty much as soon as we stopped recording, and lo and behold, as soon as we press that stop button,
there it is.
So we watched Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. We've had a week to think about it, week late. This is a really interesting trailer because I think that there's 2 possibilities and they're both, I guess, as shocking as the other.
Mm-hmm.
One is the straight up, there's a multiverse in the MCU. Now we're dealing with a multiverse. The other option is that is what I think a lot of us think is going to happen, which is that Mysterio, the character of Mysterio, is
Mysterious.
mysterious. In the comics, he's a special effects artist. He, I guess his power is to deceive. And I think that we're all getting ready for Marvel to pull a fast one on us, and say that there is no multiverse. Mysterio's just making most of this up.
That's the thing. I think
can I quickly just bump up this week's question of the week in here because it ties in quite nicely.
Well.
This is from Dotu. Cool name, man. Do you guys think this might be one of those Marvel movie trailer fake outs, or do you think that this is really going to be a thing now on in the MCU? So he's referencing multiverse here. He or she, sorry, I should say. Is the multiverse a thing now?
Yeah, I really think expectations are. They're playing with our expectations with this trailer, and maybe I'm overthinking it because I know general audiences probably don't know anything about Mysterio. They don't know that he's not Jake Gyllenhaal, who is a hero. But for someone who is a little more plugged into the comic stuff, you watch this trailer and you're like, yeah, he's full of shit. You don't know to what degree or how it's going to pan out, but you can't help but watch this and be like, there's so much more going on here. I think there is a lot we're not finding in this trailer.
Yes.
I think the MCU is kind of famous, particularly the Avenger films, are kind of famous for fake outs in trailers, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was another Iron Man 3. No,
Yes, the Mandarin.
That was Iron Man 3, right? Yeah.
100%.
I have a strong feeling, and Tom Holland, I believe, has come out and said that there's a part of this movie that people are going to hate.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling that he's referring to that. I think that there will be that moment where you find out that, Mysterio is just playing his little games. These are all special effects.
It's Trevor Slattery again.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
really hope it is literally Trevor Slattery.
No, I think what they're doing here, I think there could be a misdirect here in that Mysterio isn't a con artist and he actually does have powers. I think that could be another way that they go with this. And with the amount of stuff he's doing in this trailer, I would not be surprised if they go in that way.
Or that he is a con artist, but he is from another dimension. Like, there's so many different little ways they could take this. A fun little tidbit, they released a clip alongside this trailer that has Mysterio kind of explaining the situation to Peter in that little shield area they have, saying that, this is dimension 616.
Yes.
And I'm from dimension yada, yada, yada.
main timeline in the
813 or
comics,
something.
right? Isn't
So
it?
yeah, in the comics, the comic book universe is Marvel 616. The MCU is Marvel 199999. So the MCU is not 616. So
Right.
this could just be the MCU, but Kevin Feige would know this. So I don't think it would just be the MCU being like, yeah, we're the main comic universe, because the comic book universe takes all of the film universes into account. The X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all of that shit is compensated for. So I think if they're being really savvy, this could be a clue to something. I don't know what. But at the same time, the last Spider-Man film said it was set, 8 or 9 years after the Battle of New York.
Yes.
9 years, which would canonically put Spider-Man Homecoming after Infinity War. So who knows how much they might have fucked this up, whatever.
Whoa.
Because if you take information just
So
from
it's
Infinity War, Endgame,
2012 plus 9 years.
plus 8 years, so it's set in 2020.
2020.
When in Endgame, Tony says literally like 6 years ago, or in Infinity War, he says 6 years. Yeah, he was like, this is Thanos from 6 years ago. So if you just take information literally in these films, then Homecoming is set after Infinity War by 2
I thought
years.
Infinity War was meant to be
Whoa.
2021 or
Uh,
2022.
No, it's set in 2018.
Because then 5 years later is 2023.
Yeah, which is now where the MCU is set.
Okay.
It's all a fucking clusterfuck.
Brain hurts.
So yeah, knowing that Sony is maybe co-producing this, maybe they just don't give a shit. Because also in Into the Spider-Verse,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, they cite Peter B. Parker's universe as 616,
Oh, okay.
which also wouldn't be the case. So whatever, overthinking it. That's what I do.
No, that's really interesting, and I
Yeah.
definitely think they're going to subvert it in some way. It just it depends on which way.
See, the 8 years type thing, that seems like a mistake that they would make. The saying that this is 616, that doesn't seem like just a random mistake.
Potentially. But again,
Potentially?
they potentially. But again, they did it in Spider-Verse.
I love
so
that word.
Whatever.
Hey, we got another question here that ties in quite nicely. If you guys are keen to bump that up as
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
No.
Boom,
No.
Damien
we have
Boswell.
one question of the week.
Boom, Damien. Thanks for your question, bro. Do you think the AR glasses that Tony Stark has that he gave to Peter Parker, does using those glasses give Peter the ability to see behind the curtain and the truth about Mr. Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio? Because if you know anything about Mysterio, you know he's full of shit, but a top-notch special effects artist as well as stuntman. Looking forward to your reply, guys. So, does that tech that Tony Stark gifts Peter Parker allow him to not only see through things in terms of like a spectrum, but can he see bullshit? Are they bullshit glasses?
Literal bullshit. No, so I think with that first question is, did Stark give?
So you I don't know about that. You do see his glasses in the trailer.
Yeah, you do see the glasses.
Very definitive. Peter's wearing his glasses that he has
Yeah.
in Infinity War.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to see was there a scene that I forgot from Endgame where he bestows the glasses upon him.
He kneels.
Yeah.
Kneels.
Like as he's fading away, he
Yeah.
like puts them on. Take these
Slaps
with you.
him.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a really interesting aspect of him interacting with Tony's tech. I'm really interested to see in the trailer. There's a couple of scenes of him not wearing the tech, like he's in this kind of black outfit. I'm really interested to see why he's not using the tech, because he obviously has access to it, at least at some point in the film.
I mean, I think there's any chance that the other suits he has in the film are Stark tech that have been made for him previously, that have been left to him. When I first saw him wearing Stark's glasses, my thought was, I don't know, maybe Tony had left a message for him or something.
Yeah,
That's what I
We're gonna
thought.
see
Like
that.
I was thinking either AI Tony
Yeah.
or a message.
But
exactly
I
what I
like
thought.
this idea. That's a really good thinking.
I like the whole vibe in this trailer, which is something I wasn't expecting. And we talked about this a lot. Is this film going to reference what happened in Endgame? Immediately, it comes to that mural of Iron Man. It's like we're definitively in this zone. And what I really liked about this trailer was the conversation of, Spider-Man taking up the mantle of Iron Man. I don't think that idea had ever occurred to me, nor I don't know if it's ever been explored before. I don't know shit about comics and the details and whatnot, but it just seemed like two characters that I haven't really seen integrate that much and put a new spin on it. And I was very, very excited to see what they do there.
I'm sure that there is a comic out there about Iron Man Spidey.
One comic.
There's got to be. Like, I mean, there's just so many combinations and crossovers
totally.
and
I guess I just
reimaginings
wasn't.
and-
I'm not aware
it's
of a lot of these.
It's not a huge relationship
No.
in the comics. No.
But I really like how they made it a relationship
Yes.
in the MCU film.
Exactly.
It's a good example of how the MCU kind of evolves naturally. It's not just beholden to what's happened in the comics.
Yeah.
They respond to what people have responded to. And it also really explains why Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, is the final film in Phase 3.
Yes.
Because it's clearly
Yep.
part of this story still.
And what's that sound? Oh, it's coming from my computer. What about the idea? Okay, this might seem a bit out there, but what about this idea? Okay, throwing this
Here we go.
throwing this out there. All right, so Sony is co-producing Far From Home with Marvel. Sony actually still owns the rights to Spider-Man. Are we potentially going to see something where Peter Parker becomes Iron Man? Because Sony, from what I've read, and these are just rumors, but Sony, with how well Venom has done and that whole universe, there's potential that they're going to take Spider-Man back from loaning it to the MCU. Is there a potential here that Peter Parker, and I don't know about the legalities and the technicalities with licensing, but is Tom Holland going to play Iron Man in the MCU and relinquish the Spider-Man
That
mantle?
is very interesting. It's not something that I would have probably guessed at thematically, but it does make a lot of sense in terms of properties and all that.
Licensing.
Having said that, I think that Sony would be insane to not hedge their bets and stick with the MCU. I think that
Oh, me too.
them
Yeah.
doing one movie that's successful and thinking that they should reinvent Spider-Man again and think that, the fan base is just going to be like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Sounds like Sony though, doesn't it?
I was about to say it's insane, but it sounds like something Sony would go for.
But they could actually do it well and do something that a lot of people are clamoring for, which would be, hey, we're doing Miles Morales now. Like, Peter's gone, they're taking him back,
Yeah.
and now we're Miles Morales. And they could be a necessity that they could make look like a really cool choice. But yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I mean, Peter Parker could become the Iron Spider, which is the suit he has in Infinity
It just seems
War.
really hammering home. Like, it was mentioned many, many times. I was like, what is happening here? Maybe it's just a story thing and I'm looking into it too much. But just with it's just very interesting. I'm interested to see how it pans out.
I mean, I wouldn't know about the real letter of the kind of copyright law. I would assume that Sony owns Peter Parker,
Exactly.
Spider-Man, but it's still very interesting. And yeah,
P. Baker? Do they own that?
They just never call him by name again.
Yeah.
But they might just call him Peter. Like, Peter is Peter.
PETA?
And Aunt M.
Hey, Auntie.
Well, thanks for those questions, guys. Hopefully those were answered with expertise and grace.
As always.
Any further points on Far From Home?
Yes, I believe Chameleon is supposed to be in this film. I would not be
Chameleon?
surprised. Chameleon, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I would not be surprised if maybe he's pretending to be Nick Fury, because it strikes me as very strange if Quentin Beck is going to be the villain of this piece, that Nick Fury wouldn't be wise to that.
Yeah, oh, that's really interesting.
So can Chameleon, are his superpowers that he can fly?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
No, he's got really sticky fingers. No, he can turn
Spider-Man's
into
nemesis. I'd love it if there was a scene where he tried to lick Spider-Man. Yeah. One last thing before we move on, which is I really love that Happy is in this. I really like Jon Favreau. I love that he has a continuing involvement with the MCU. You know, for someone that helped create this, I think it's really fitting that he's there.
Yeah, it's nice to see him turn up.
Yeah.
What also final thing is like, do you
I
feel
already
like
said
we've
final
seen?
thing.
Sorry. Do you think we've? Sorry, I know I'm fucking churning this in here, but all that stuff that's happening with London Bridge and all the big explosions. Do you think that's the final battle sequence in this?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think it's just going to be Peter Parker like slapping the shit out of Quentin Beck, who has no powers and there's
Hell
no
yeah.
suit.
In a
He's like,
dungeon.
"You piece of shit! I believed you."
At the end of Casino
Just in a
Royale.
room. It's like Joker and Batman.
Having said that, I think that the
One final thing.
Yeah. Is it really?
Huh?
It really?
What?
Do you actually have one
No,
final
no.
thing? I swear to God.
Fuck no.
Let's go. I think we could talk about this probably all day. Let's just move on.
Yes.
Our second trailer is It Chapter 2.
I thought it was IT. Anyway.
IT. You've made that joke like every
I've
single
never
time.
made that joke. I've been saving that up for 2 years.
called a running
Not a
gag.
chance.
I've been saving that up for 2 years,
Not a
mate.
chance, man. I will go back through all our podcasts and find every time.
Please
that you
do.
that.
Please do.
Yeah, call us back.
Can I just say off the bat, this is how you do a fucking trailer. This is how you do a trailer.
This is
see-
exactly it.
Yeah.
It's the only way to do it.
It certainly is
Or
a
you
style.
don't think so?
I
Or
didn't
you
say
thought
that.
it was good?
I didn't say that. No, all right. Look, I
He was
really
going to.
like this.
Yeah.
It's a very particular style where they show an entire scene, and I think that that's a really kind of a hit and miss type thing. I think it really worked here. I think that it leads really nicely into a, kind of the actual trailer part, which is the everything getting cut together.
Sizzle
and-
reel.
Yeah. But I love the fact that this trailer kind of brings you into a moment. I just really hope that it's not one of the scarier moments. Because I find that like when a horror movie does that, you're like, when you get to that point in the movie, you're like, you kind of feel a bit put out. It's like, I've already seen this. Let's move on.
If it's anything like It Chapter 1, which it no doubt will be, it'll be nonstop jump scares and shit. So I am so keen for this movie. I read a full description of this trailer like a month ago when they had it at CinemaCon or whatever.
And it's the longest scene at CinemaCon, I believe. This is a condensed
okay,
version
yeah,
of that scene with the old lady.
Yeah, so this was all kind of exactly what I was expecting, but I loved it in terms of execution.
I think that the way Andy Muschietti puts together that scene is so effective.
Yeah.
Like it's just so well put together, draws you in, and then we get that sizzle reel at the end. And by the time I'd finished the trailer for the first time, I was like, this is done exactly what a trailer needs to do. I'm hyped. I am got a few little hooks about where we're going. We've got a major scene in there. Like this is really shaping up nicely, and it gives me a lot of confidence in the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I also really like the use of subtle horror. I mean, in this there aren't really jump scares in the trailer, but there's just kind of I guess motifs
Creep
and
outs.
creepiness.
Yeah.
And I love films, particularly horror films, that build atmosphere and don't entirely rely on jump scares. I mean, not to say that I don't enjoy jump scare films. I really, whenever I think of jump scare, I think of The Woman in Black. Is that what it's called? I really, really enjoy
Killer
that
movie.
film. Really enjoy that film. But that is essentially a jump scare film.
And I think this will be as well, just like the first one. But what I really enjoyed here was the trailer continuity with the first film's trailer,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
a huge. I don't know if you guys remember the phenomenon that was. It was such a big trailer. And this one brings back that weird alarm chime sound right at the end there. Oh, give me chills. I love it.
That moment, it was just
Great
perfect.
sound design.
Mm.
One thing, the only negative I have about this trailer, and it's not really about the trailer, but more so the film project itself, is what I loved about that first one was the blank canvas from those kids. Like they were the kids. There was no James McAvoy from X-Men and Bill Hader from all those things I've seen, and Jessica Chastain, an Academy Award-winning actor. This is just
The kids growing up.
The baggage that those actors are bringing. Like I just it's a different kind of film, and I'm gonna have to just get used to that.
Yeah. James McAvoy, I think, is probably the most jarring to see in
I'd say so.
in this. I mean, the most famous person in the first one was probably Skarsgård, and you can't recognize him.
Mm.
So,
Oh, and, you know, Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things was a
but I didn't watch
very
Stranger
known
Things,
property.
so-
Yeah, but everyone else did.
yeah, everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only thing with this film that I'm gonna have to kind of wrap my head around.
Mm.
And also, I just feel like the Amy Adams casting. I love Jessica Chastain, and she worked with Andy Muschietti on Mama all those years ago. So obviously, they've got a working relationship. They've worked together. It makes sense. But the uncanniness of how that young girl looked like Amy Adams,
Yeah.
it was just like that was perfect continuity.
Yeah, like I was watching that first one straight away. I was like, Amy Adams
Yeah.
is in this sequel, and I don't know if I mentioned to you guys that in the miniseries Sharp Objects, Amy Adams does play her as a grown up,
Oh, okay.
that young actress.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which so someone obviously
That's
caught onto it
trippy.
at least.
They should just like bill themselves for any kind of
is my
young
minion.
slash
Yeah, any
old-
flashback
yeah.
sequences.
Cast them.
Mm.
But anyway, I am so hyped on this.
Yeah, most anticipated film of the year. It may have even been before Endgame came out. Possibly. I just fucking love that first one so much.
Final thing I'll say is what I'm really liking about it and Infinity War Endgame, and it's something we haven't seen a lot in film. It's always about the trilogy. What I love about those is the two-hander. It's like 1 and 2. That's the film series. They could have done that with The Hobbit. They decided to do a trilogy. I just love that start, end. You know,
Yeah.
boom, story's finished.
Why you gotta
Even though it
bring-
worked out really well for The Hobbit,
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for the duology.
Yeah, the duology, man, because then you don't get that middle chapter that's like, ooh, they've got to go do something else, or there's this other plot thread that comes in. It's like, we're going down the gauntlet.
Man, why you got to bring up the Hobbit?
You know
Why
we don't
you-
talk about that around
Why
here.
you got to do that?
You know the rules of this podcast.
Yeah.
The
Why do you want
Hobbit.
to hurt me?
The Hobbit.
You're a son of a bitch. Next, we have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which is, I'm told, a sequel to the Maleficent that came out, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
I think 2014, I think, something like that.
Okay, yeah, 5 years ago.
Wait, so this is prequel to the sequel?
This is a sequel to the original.
To the prequel?
Which is a prequel, I suppose. Yeah, good point.
Fuck.
The original is in part a prequel. I think it has a lot of Sleeping Beauty in it, if not the whole thing. I haven't actually seen it. I assume you guys haven't.
I
have
saw
not.
it, I think 4 years ago or something.
Mm.
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I actually, from what I remember, I remember enjoying it. I thought that it was far better than it had any right to be. And so yeah, I that might have been my expectations of it, and it just exceeded those, or it might have just genuinely been a good film. But my memory of Maleficent was actually pretty positive.
Yeah, I watched a
Um,
bunch of bits and pieces of it, and from a production standpoint, at least, it was gorgeous.
Angelina
that was
Jolie's
really
character
cool.
design is phenomenal.
Yeah, and the whole movie looked great, and the scenes I watched were I really quite dug it. There was one in particular, which is I think the one moment they kind of added to the story to really change the perception of Maleficent.
Mhm.
And I think the whole kind of story hinges on that, and it was like harrowing. It was a really bold way for a Disney movie to take a story like that.
Yeah.
And I was pretty impressed. And this trailer I really liked, and now I want to go watch the first one because I want to check this one out.
Look, I would suggest watching the first one with the proviso that, as I said, that might have been expectations.
Totally. I've seen enough of it to know, I think, where I'd be at with it. I just want to be able to be ready for this one, honestly,
Yeah.
because I really like this trailer.
I like the trailer, but it does seem to kind of fly in the face of what the first one was about, which was giving a more sympathetic eye to Maleficent. And in this one, the sequel called Mistress of Evil, it does seem to
Make
kind
your
of
mind
just
up.
it kind of just go back on the whole point of the first one.
Well,
I think that there's something to be. This might be pulling a fast one, and you're like, "Hey, what's happening here?" And
maybe
then
Michelle Pfeiffer's the Mistress of Evil.
it does seem as though that might be the way.
So I think everyone thought that the Captain America was the Winter Soldier before that movie came out. They're like, oh no, there is a Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I got shit all to say on this. I
I'd
I'm
suggest
not the
say-
right demographic. I'm just a butthurt
Look, I'm not going to lie. There was,
20-something-year-old
there,
man.
there was a lot of colors, and they used the song "Season of the Witch," so I was happy. That was it.
Yeah, that's probably as much as we can talk
Yeah.
about it.
Well, I will say, I think as far as these live action Disney kind of adaptations and movies go, this is the direction I like to see them go in.
Yeah.
I will agree with you wholeheartedly there.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
it's far
won't
more
go see
interesting.
this, and I will go see Aladdin and the Lion King and the ones that I don't agree with.
That's the thing. I'd be more likely to skip this, but I will have a lot less stress and anger regarding this
Yeah.
film either way.
yeah.
No, I really agree. I think that the key is to do a reimagining or approach it in a different way. Something
The
that,
dark side of the story you never knew.
but the whole point is that it's not. It's the light side. It's taking someone that you thought was a villain and giving them more depth and
Cruella
interest
de
to it.
Vil coming 2020.
I take it all back. Never mind.
Yeah, God, there's no version of these that they can't fucking make sound terrible, is there?
Yeah, I suppose. Fuck. All right. Well, what the fuck do we know then?
Yeah.
But we're bringing it back with a movie that we know we all love. We
Oh,
got
yeah.
another trailer, I suppose.
Ugh.
I think we can call it trailer for Dark Phoenix,
Yeah.
which is set to be the most anticipated film of 2019.
This trailer's like, do you remember X-Men? Because there's another one coming.
Do you remember the half of the X-Men films that you like?
Yeah,
Because they're
and
the
they-
ones we're showing you right
Yeah.
now. Just those.
It
Remember
was
when-
it was very poignant, the ones that they picked, and you're like,
didn't see Apocalypse pop up in there at all.
Learning.
learning.
No, we got Wolverine on the Empire State Building from X-Men 1 all those millennia ago. And
Yeah.
everything in between. And
They're
This
really
just-
tapping into the whole MCU kind of kudos that's getting right now is what they've achieved, and they have the the text on there. It's like one movie changed it all. Which, to be fair, X-Men was a big deal for superhero
Yeah.
movies, but so hard to claim that this point down
I
the
was like,
line. There's
imagine
no
the
continuity
balls
between
on
that shit.
the people that are fucking doing the trailers for this, thinking like, yeah, we're really gonna take this angle on it. And you're like, don't.
I
Please don't.
reckon somebody at Fox or Disney, whoever, was like, listen, this isn't trending good, guys. We need a super cut of all our favorite heroes mashed into one fucking thing.
But you know what? It just strikes me as them basically on their knees being like, please remember the good that we've done.
yeah, totally.
And I mean, like that to me, just it doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth because I'm like, yeah, but you don't deserve for us to remember all the good you've done because you've done so much that is bad, and we shouldn't forget that.
It definitely has that last ditch effort vibe. And I think a film that did a really good last ditch effort trailer was Aquaman from last year. It's like that 4.5 minute one that I remember seeing that and being like, wow, I'm actually really excited for Aquaman now. I did not get the same feeling from this one at all.
Well,
It's the
in addition to that,
desperation. It's the
this-
desperation.
This also felt like a very rushed trailer. In those trailers that they're very clearly just taking the audio from a scene and then like they clip it off and you can just hear the sound stop and the next scene start and you're like, oh, that's so jarring to see that in a trailer. Like don't do that. Like it's very kind of it seems like trailer 101.
Yep. Any final tidbits, guys, for the
This is going to be a
final
bad
X-Men film ever?
I can't wait to see this movie.
When
one way or another.
I'm
It
so-
can't,
I'm
it
actually-
can't
When is
be
this-
worse than we're expecting.
I'm really excited for the
when
review.
does this actually come out? How many weeks?
6. We've got pretty stacked list coming
my
in,
goodness.
but yeah.
I just feel like this has been
4 or 6 weeks away.
Yeah,
Not
I
far-
feel like
not
this
far.
has been on the calendar for ages, and I kind of feel like let's just have it.
It was
already.
supposed to be February. Remember?
Mm.
Remember? And then they bumped
Remember?
it. Bumped it. No,
No, I don't have any space in my brain
Yeah.
for this movie. I hope this movie is actually really good somehow. I also hope it's just balls to the wall franchise ending because like they went in and did reshoots on this. They knew that they were not going to be making any more of this franchise. It looks like a lot of people die in this movie. I really hope that they burn this whole thing to the ground.
It'd be interesting.
It could be something really different in the blockbuster sphere, which is something that knows it has no future.
I
I don't know what to do. that was Simon Kinberg, the director, every day on set.
No, James, those aren't your lines. That's just me. Sorry. All right. Well, let's move on. We've got a cool little Netflix property called I Am Mother. A little sci-fi with Hilary Swank.
This is coming to Sydney Film Festival.
Roseburn, yeah. And apparently
Yeah.
it's hitting Netflix the day after, so save some money on that ticket.
Yep. I'm always a sucker for
of
sci-fi. Netflix put out Annihilation last year, which was one of my favorite films of last year. So I have I guess a good amount of goodwill towards Netflix's sci-fi endeavors.
Yeah, Cloverfield Paradox.
I knew you were going to do that.
Right.
This gives me a few. It reminds me a little bit of Moon in a way.
Yeah.
In that like enclosed space, techie one room kind of a guy in a room kind of vibe. And whilst I do think that this film has a few, when you're watching the trailer, you're like, okay, it's either going to go this way or this way.
There's only two options with this trailer.
And then they chucked in a few extra things that I was like, okay, we've got a few other threads going on, and this makes it a little more interesting. So as the trailer went on, I got more interested in the premise.
I think they did a really good job of balancing it. Like, like you said, often when you finish up with trailers, you're like, I can pretty much see where this is going. I think they did a really good job of just kind of really keeping you in the dark. They showed enough of one side, the kind of the robot being evil. They showed enough of the other side, which is that maybe there's more to the robot than you think. Like maybe there is really good. Like this trailer actually kept me guessing, which is what a trailer should do. It shouldn't reveal the actual twist or the plot or anything like that. So I think they did a really good job of kind of creating intrigue.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not exactly bad AI is not exactly a new concept. But I think it'd be really cool if they kind of maybe try and change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
I really hope there's more to this than what because there's a lot in the trailer. So there better be more. It's an Australian co-production, which is pretty cool. Like it looks very polished.
The robots design reminds me of Chappie.
Yep.
That sort of boxy.
Don't fuck it up now, George.
I like that Blomkamp aesthetic. No matter what everyone says about his film, in terms of his production design, I always think that mechanical practicality that he brings.
I completely agree, but we have rules. We don't mention The Hobbit. We don't mention Chappie. We don't mention Blomkamp anymore. It's on YouTube now.
Oh yeah, Chappie. That is my favorite movies. Yeah. And I can say that because I'm South African, not racist.
Would you just like pick where you're from based on
That's it.
what nationality you want to make fun of?
Insert accent. That's where I'm from. I lade.
I don't think you even try to claim to be Scottish, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, Mackenzie,
Yeah,
that's
fuck
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. I'm gonna get a tat soon. I'm gonna get a
Of just
fucking-
all the nationalities that you've
Yeah, I'm just
appropriated
gonna
into
get Scotland.
The biggest crime of Chappie is that I didn't like, or I had a worse opinion of D'Antwoord after that, which is odd because I'm not sure I was ever meant to have a good opinion of them. Like they never came across as like wholesome figures. Like I don't know.
I think you're freaky.
Strange casting.
And then finally we have the HBO produced Watchmen.
Watchman.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I love that it looks as though they're putting some serious money into that into this property. It's HBO, so it's not particularly surprising in that sense.
I thought, sort of contrary to that, I thought that it looked very well produced. Like it looked polished, looked beautiful, but it didn't necessarily look like there was any big sequences or like that sort of extra layer of production or spectacle. But it looks cinematic and beautiful and crisp. And
Do you think they're just saving that for later?
Could
or do you-
definitely
you know,
be.
or maybe it's just not up to scratch.
or it could be one of those more conversational.
Yeah, unlike Zack Snyder, maybe they understand that Watchmen isn't about spectacle, and it is more about the story and the setting. And
People hate that Watchmen movie, man.
I fucking love it.
I really
I've watched
liked
the
it.
4-hour version, and I don't think I blinked once. I really like that movie.
Well,
but
yeah,
I don't.
my eyes are red.
Oh, they fell out after. I definitely don't think Snyder got exactly what Alan
No, he
Moore
didn't.
and Dave
And-
Gibbons were going for.
And but more so what I love about that Watchmen was conceptually, he nailed what he wanted to do. Is in the brief was, hey, we're going to basically take the panels and we're going to make them movies. And that's it.
Yeah.
Make them movies.
Yeah.
That
Make
makes a lot
movie.
of sense.
You, Snyder, make movie.
That's what the Warner Brothers exec said to Snyder. So I'm liking that it's going more that vibe. There's very much not much in here to really pick apart. I'm liking the sort of Rorschach cult, worshippers of Rorschach and his ideals. You know, there's something very interesting there. In terms of like this guy with the silver chromy face and the police with the yellow masks on, there's not many clues in here about what it's all about.
So-
and I like that.
Yeah, the gist seems to be just based on this that Rorschach's journal has gotten out and revealed the events of the graphic novel to the world, which is such an interesting premise. Which is obviously where the graphic novel kind of left off with that hanging. I love
The movie
Jeremy
too, I
Irons.
believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the casting of Jeremy Irons as Ozymandias. He's
So good.
I think that's a lot better than Matthew Good. No offense from the film version. I thought he was one of the weaker casting elements. But
I do too.
I'm really keen to see this. I don't even want to speculate about where it's going to go. I like Damon Lindelof. I loved Lost.
He loves Prometheus.
Love Prometheus. Yep. I love everything he contributed to Prometheus
The
specifically.
engineers. And then Damon mentioned to me engineers.
I can't believe Ridley ruined his movie. But I'm very keen for this.
How about you, bro?
Yeah, really excited. I never read the graphic novel, so
You need to borrow it from me, man. It's so
You
good.
keep saying that.
Do
It's
yourself
that
a
good.
favor.
I don't think I've ever actually read a graphic novel.
It's honestly the only one you need
Not-
to read.
Not out of any kind of snobbishness against graphic novels. I just don't think I've ever had the opportunity or the real kind of situation where I picked one up and started. Watchmen has been recommended to me by a couple of people, but it's just one of those things that I've never really gotten to.
It's one of those ones where it has a nice hybrid between the pulpy comic book stuff and more of a sophisticated, more European graphic novel. Boom. Perfect.
I just don't want to be one of those people that says, I don't read comics. I read graphic novels.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Because then I would just have to hate myself.
you're always running that risk.
Next time I come back on the podcast, I'm going to have like this big ponytail. And
Okay, a couple of final things. I don't know if anyone remembers here. Is this a one-off series? Like one and done?
I'm not sure.
Second thing is
don't have an answer to it.
something.
Not sure.
Well, there we have it.
Is that it?
Easy.
That's so that
Fuck, I had a brain fart. I
Wow.
can't remember what the second question was.
I don't think
How
that's
many seasons?
specified.
How many episodes? Sorry, how many episodes?
Right. That
8 or
information,
10?
That information might be out there. I don't know.
Watch
You
the
want
have
to
to
look
series.
look it up. If you had the choice, Ben, would you want this to be a one-off or kind of a continued series?
I'm assuming, based on it being Lindelof and HBO, that they would have like a 3-season plan at least or something, and that things would have to go pretty poorly for them not to execute that. But I would like this to run as long as they want to tell the story.
Yeah. Do you think
If
it'll
it's
be
good.
successful? I mean,
I think it'll do as well as any other HBO thing.
yeah.
Not,
As any
not
other.
obviously, not obviously one particular one, but
Yeah.
there's a plenty of really high quality HBO series that just come and go without much notice really anymore because they used to be the word in like cinematic television, but now there's so many other opportunities.
wonder-
for that.
We've got just to jump in here quickly, no confirmation on episode number.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Only episode length, 60 minutes.
Cool.
Okay.
And just quickly, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross composing. Totally forgot about that.
Me too.
That is killer.
That's the most exciting
That's
thing about
always a
all of it.
really good indication. I guess this is a bit of an aside, but where do you think the future of HBO lies? Because they're kind of at the moment it doesn't really feel like they're apart from Game
Lots
of Thrones.
of Game of Thrones spin-offs.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, are they maintaining the same kind of prestige that they had before? Is this kind of their high and then they'll just drift off? Like, what's your
Oh,
prediction?
man,
I
it's going to be a
suppose?
huge vacuum after next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I respect HBO so much because they seem to they seem to have that integrity about their series. They don't perpetually go on forever and ever and ever. Supernatural. But
Is that an HBO?
no. But
Using that as a comparison
Oh,
point.
okay.
they're going to run into some trouble with this new streaming era.
Yeah.
They're going to have to build an
I mean,
alliance with Netflix or somebody.
They've
and-
already lost comedy, which was like that was the big thing. You did HBO special.
Yes.
that was a big. That I mean, you made it as
As a comedian,
as a
yeah.
comedian, and now every second person has a special on Netflix, and no one
Netflix.
gives a shit about HBO specials.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I don't want to lose HBO as a provider because I think that, as you said, they've got some serious and there's some integrity to their shows.
You kind of go there and you like, if you get an HBO show, you're like, I'm going to get something of quality.
Yeah.
Did they do Westworld? Can't remember.
No, Westworld I think might even be Amazon.
HBO, yeah.
Oh, that is HBO.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's got that sheen and polish to it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they must be doing okay with the amount of money they've spent on Game of Thrones, and that should keep pulling in shit for them for ages, even though it's ending.
I just wonder
And
how
they do have spin-offs in the works.
Yes, no, they do. I just wonder how they're actually going to get eyeballs on these properties as more and more streaming providers come in. As less and less people, like Emily Foxtel, for all the American listeners, that's the sort of equivalent. It's the only cable TV that we basically get in Australia. Emily, they lost 100,000 people in the first half of this year. 100,000 people.
I wouldn't be surprised. I admittedly, I signed up for Foxtel Now, I think it's called.
Yeah,
just
we've
their
got
streaming
that.
service.
Yeah.
And I plan on, sorry Foxtel, I plan on ditching that as soon as Game of Thrones is over.
Exactly.
They must be fucking battening down the hatches, and bloody winter is coming for Foxtel, man. Like next week.
I don't-
it's time.
yeah, exactly.
They just got 3 billion or something injected from some investors, but it's a sinking ship, man. It's a
Yeah, I have
sinking ship.
absolutely no interest in continuing a subscription with them.
No.
I mean,
And we had a little troll around. We've got Foxtel Now as well. Had a bit of fun. Couldn't connect it up to the Apple TV. Couldn't do it through
Yeah.
iView. Couldn't get it going on the TV. So everything has. It's just like
So
you've lost me.
You have
You've
to do it
lost
through
me.
AirPlay.
We couldn't, and it wasn't streaming it through. It was
It
so
does
weird.
work for me.
Okay.
But I mean,
Plug
but,
a HDMI cable into your laptop.
yeah,
Nah.
but I mean, even then, like
USB-C, baby.
they don't have an app
USB-C.
on a lot of platforms like Apple
one
TV. I think that's absurd. Yeah, and I think that I don't know what the reasoning behind HBO giving an exclusive right. They would have just, I mean,
Would have been buckets of cash.
buckets and buckets of cash. I don't even know how that works. Foxtel would have had to, shovel out money. But that I mean, the fact that that's the only way you can get it pisses me off as a consumer.
Delete subscription.
If anyone's still listening, thanks for hanging around.
Yeah, no, as we talk about that obscure subscription
And
service.
that's trailer time for you. Guys, we had those 2 questions. Brilliant questions, I got to say earlier. So thanks everyone for hitting us up there. If you've got a question, let us know. We will answer it, guaranteed. Unless the volume gets too high. And then, we're going to have to pick the best one. So make them good. We're going to be doing our John Wick review very soon. John Wick 3, that is, not 1. So stay tuned for that. Detective Pikachu's up. Content coming your way. It's so good. And I'm, you know what? I'm really comfortable right now. And once you guys are gone, I'm probably not going to leave this chair. So it's going to be great.
Who said I'm leaving?
We'll see you next week, Connor.
See you next week.
And see you next week, Benny.
Bye, everybody.
Actually, I'll see you in 2 days. What are you talking about?
And I'll see you next week, George.
We got some stuff to break to you, Connor.
Yeah.
See you, man.